Hello, my name is Jeff Johnston, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a therapist. Um, I'm a survivor. I recently published a book, um, Yes, You Can Help, but Not That Way. And I just wanted to reiterate a little bit about depression, which I know nobody wants to talk about, nobody wants to hear about, but it's growing drastically in the United States, as is all over the world, and every different age group. This is actually my practice TED Talk. I will be submitting this for being on there because I feel that it's important that people understand what it's like to go through depression. And I don't mean depression, why don't you have happier thoughts? I mean depression that lives inside of you. You can literally feel it. In my book, I describe that on September 11th, 2011, I was released from the secured 9th floor of Novant Health Presbyterian Hospital after spending 2 weeks in lockdown for suicidal tendencies. Now, at the time, I was a 53-year-old Caucasian American, married, children, grandchildren. Things were going pretty well. I was a pretty optimistic person. In fact, as a lot of people thought I was overly optimistic. I kept a pretty good attitude. However, something changed in my life, and when it did, it, to use the cliche, pulled the rug out right from underneath me. I didn't see what was coming. I didn't understand what was coming, and I figured that if I don't understand that after 53 years, I don't understand anything, and decided to end my life. I was one of the fortunate few that saw the opportunity to commit myself. I didn't do a lot of speaking. I didn't do any lot of writing, although I am a poet, for 3 or 4 days. And even though inside with everything that they were saying, I just didn't see the purpose for living. I ended up coming out of the hospital, which was a good and a bad thing. My doctor had mentioned that I was going to be allowed to be out and wanted me to call my work and make sure that everything was going well with them. And this was on Thursday before the Sunday she was talking about releasing me, Sunday being September 11th of 2011. And my place of employment explained to me how, yes, they had used days of vacation and everything was fine for the past 2 weeks that I'd missed work. And if I didn't show up for work Monday morning, I was fired. I attempted to explain to the HR department that I was in the hospital. I did not explain that I was in lockdown, hadn't been outside in 2 weeks, hadn't smoked a cigarette in 2 weeks, and my 24 hours was pretty much guarded. I expressed this to my doctor. My doctor was not very happy with that because she was under the understanding that I was going to go to 8-hour day, 5 days a week therapy. And I explained to her that no, I was not cured, but if I lost my job and my insurance, where was that going to put me? So under medication, a severe amount of antidepressants, as well as 100 milligram of Trazodone because I lost the ability to sleep, and a handful daily of Xanax because to calm my nerves. I came out of the hospital and moved in with some friends and who offered me a room in the back of their house and went to work the next morning. To say I was a zombie was be pretty right. I spent the next 8 years trying to understand this disease, this unwelcomed presence. I was in therapy for 3 years, and was explained that this was the new me. There wouldn't be any changes. I had severe anxiety attacks. I had what I called depression events, where I would literally lock up. I'm not sure which was worse, that or just falling down in public and rolling up into a ball and crying like a baby. As time went by, I was trying to work through this, and after several years, I had the realization that I was either going to be increasing my medication all the time, or it could work to get off of it. So I had conversations with my pharmacist and my doctor, and I started to wean myself off of the medication. I succeeded in getting off the medication. However, then I relapsed and tried to overdose with the drugs that they had been providing me. This didn't work, and I was taken to the hospital once again. The same hospital, the same floor, the same doctor. After coming out of that, back on medication, no finances to speak of. I borrowed some money and went back to work, which was extremely difficult. And this is one of the things that I want to talk about. I would end up leaving work on a regular basis because I would have a depression event and I just could not cope. As in breathe, speak, not cry. And if you tried to help me, it seemed to make matters worse. Over the next couple of years, I tried to overcome this, and I found that if I could feel the event coming, I described it as a tsunami. I could feel running towards me, and I would stop whatever I was doing. If I was with a customer, I would get somebody else or talking to someone, and I just have to excuse myself, and I would go in a conference room and sit by myself, locked with my muscles as tight as could be for anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes. Then I would slowly come out of that, go clean up, and I appeared to be back to normal. Well, one of these episodes, I noticed a particular salesman had come in the conference room. Although I couldn't speak with him, I noticed that he was there, and fortunately he did not come over to me. And later that evening, I was talking to him outside and explaining that I apologized for, not conversing with him, and he was fine. He knew. Most everybody that I worked with there knew that I had this situation. My manager, one of my managers, could see it coming as well. He saw the difference in me physically, mentally, and communicative-wise. So anyway, I was talking to this gentleman who, similar in age, just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being, and he started telling me about his son, who dropped out of college unexpectedly, and he starts describing some things about not wanting to leave the house, about not wanting to eat, about not wanting to be able to ride the bus, about not being around people, about not being able to handle loud noises, about not wanting to live. And once again, in my years of experience, I said, talking about depression. And he, like many others that I would bring this up to, not ignorant on purpose, but ignorant to what that meant, and a lot of no, it can't be that. It's not that. It's something else. And he told me how he grabbed his son by the shirt collars and shook him and told him, "Your mother and I," and went on and on. And as he was telling me this outside underneath the awning, I started to hyperventilate. And I could hardly speak. And I finally got it out, and I said, "Look," I said, "if you never hear anything I say, please, please, please don't ever, ever do that again." I told him, if you did that to me when I was going through an episode, you might as well just put a gun in my hand, because it's impossible to handle this. Anyway, I'm driving home that night, and I lived about 45 minutes from work, and I decided that possibly I could write a book to help loved ones maybe understand a little bit more about what they were experiencing, what their loved one, their child, their spouse, their parent, their grandmother was going through, and maybe help explain a little bit. This thought rolled around in my head for about a year, and then one day I said, "Okay, just go on the computer and write down your basic points of what you want to get across." And I did, and decided that that would be my book. And again, that's what it is. Yes, you can help, but not that way. Having watched many videos, having listened to lots and lots and lots and lots of different people speaking about depression, one of the quotes that, and I do not remember where I saw it or who said it, but one of the quotes that really explained and hit home for me was, "Having depression and wanting to die is like being in a tall burning building and jumping out the window. You don't want to jump, but you definitely don't want to burn to death." That really does describe what it's like. So in my book, I have 20 chapters, and they're basically a line or two. And I just wanted to cover some of these because, again, more and more and more that there is communication, I find that more and more and more people are going through this or have relatives. I have 3 different relatives myself who situations were explained to. Again, I said, "You're describing depression," and they were, "Oh, no, 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 it's not that." Now, again, folks, I am not a doctor, but I've had 8 years experience of this, and good and bad. So I just wanted to cover a couple of these ideas and possibly open up conversation more today, tomorrow, with somebody you know, with somebody you love, with some person, and also for the person going through it, because it affects the person going through it has no understanding. I truly had no comprehension of what was happening to me, and so the individual has a process to go through, as well as the loved ones around him have a process to go through, and communication, I think, will help considerably if you've got an idea of what, like, a do's and don'ts. I'm going to cover a couple of these real quick. Chapter 1, it doesn't matter what the is. When I have an issue, I have an issue. It doesn't matter what has put this person where they're at. It's that they're where they're at. And whether it doesn't sound like much to you, it just doesn't matter. They're already there. Accept it. Tough love does not help. Does not help. Please don't tough love. I'd rather just pull the trigger. And I'm just being as honest as I can be. If you never say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you will be doing me and others a good thing. A good thing. If you never say, just get over it, whatever it is, we're way past that, and that just doesn't work. If I'm seeing a therapist, which I recommend, communicating with somebody, I'm not against medications. I feel like if I didn't have them at the time I had them, we wouldn't be having this conversation, or you wouldn't be listening to this monologue. I am getting myself off with meditation and some other things. But if they are going to therapy, treat that with respect, not abuse. Don't ever, 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 ever physically grab me or the loved one and shake them, or even giving them a hug sometimes is very difficult to ingest. When I'm having an event, let me get through it. Be there, but let me get through it. Ask me to be involved in things, but if I decline, don't get upset. As I say in the book, leaving my bedroom, much less my house, can be an astronomical event for me. If I'm curled up in a corner or fall down in the park and roll up and bawl and cry, don't panic. Just remain calm. Speak softly to me and don't worry. The more I can talk about what is going on inside of me to someone is the better. But don't judge me. Just don't judge me, or I'll never talk to you again. If you do ask me to go somewhere and I really pin it down, where are we going, and it's XYZ, and I decide to go, please don't go to ABC. That is just too much for my mind to comprehend. I don't trust myself most places. I'd rather be at home if I'm going to have an event. Loud noises and unexpected sounds can just set me off, set the depressed person off. It's too much input. When it's getting dark at night, it's very scary. It's very scary. Please be patient. Please be patient. For 8 years, I thought it normal that I thought about killing myself every day in every situation that I came across. This may be what I would be thinking when you ask me how I am, and I tell you I'm fine. If you want to sit with me while I'm in a blubbering, confused state, beautiful, but please don't interrogate me. That's not going to work. Depressed person does not want to be around other people, and they don't want to be alone. Just being in the other room where I could hear you is helpful. When I'm having an event, responsibilities such as spouse, children, job, means absolutely nothing. Please don't even bring it up. Not at that time. There are times when something very small can happen and I go off the deep end. What you don't realize is I've already had a series of small things that I got through and have been able to move forward. And that last thing, which could be the light bulb popping, me stubbing my toe, a mosquito on my arm, the door being locked, the toilet not flushing. These things, which to you mean nothing, are enormous to me. Just try to see that. There are two things that I would recommend to people. Is check out the Sedona method. It has helped me. And the biggest thing that has helped me is Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't have time to speak about him, but this is one of the reasons why I can do what I'm doing today. I know I've gone over a little bit with my time. I'm available for questions. I can be text, I can be called. I'm here because I understand, and the more we understand, the more we can help. Thank you.